Tell us about Mezocliq and the challenges that enterprises face with data governance today and how you're trying to solve that.
Big data today is potentially a gold mine for most companies. But the reality is, for many companies, it's more of a landmine. In order to get insight out of data, first you have to have the data. At most companies, a simple query, like how many employees do we have, what were our revenues with a client yesterday, are really tough queries. Data has become fragmented across hundreds, if not thousands of systems, which don't talk to each other, which have very unique and distinct data models. Mezocliq solves this problem. I mean, the world has tried for years through various integration approaches and various data warehousing techniques to solve it. We have a new kind of approach. So we offer a cloud-based solution that provides data governance. Instead of the traditional integration approaches, we've taken a linguistic approach to the problem. So we've spent years studying millions of variables and reducing them to a generic taxonomy that can represent any process, any variable, any industry in a single framework.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. The idea of a linguistics perspective. Why now and why not before?
See, I started my career doing big data analytics. And one of the things I found really frustrating was I spent most of my time just getting data. A few years ago, I took a team of PhDs and put them to the problem of studying the variables themselves and seeing if there were commonalities across systems, across processes. We found that there are lots and lots of commonalities. A legal entity might have an activation date or an incorporation date. An employee may have a hire date. A security may have an issuance date. But linguistically, they're the same thing. They're the date when these things were created. An employee may have a social security number. A bond may have a CUSIP, and a client may have a tax ID. But in terms of deep language structure, these are the same thing. We have found these patterns. We've now studied probably about 5 million variables and have reduced them to about 5,000 that are at the genetic core from which all of them could be derived. I suppose the closest thing that I can think of is in linguistics, people have tried to identify the deep structure of language. That's what we've tried to do for enterprise data.
As a CEO of a company, my concerns are not necessarily how to structure data. I need answers to questions that I have. How are you helping CEOs with some of their challenges?
So for most of my life, I was that CEO. I had all the frustrations that you're describing. I wanted to know how much work we had done for a client yesterday. I wanted to know employee performance by location. I couldn't get the data. What we do is we take a modular approach. We take one system or one process from a company at a time and pull it into this cloud-based solution. So for a CEO that is looking for either simple reports, like what did my company do yesterday, or sophisticated analytics in which they need various parts of a company to come together, we provide the foundation on which they can do that.
Are you able to talk about the customers that you have today?
We've been sort of in stealth mode, but we have some very big clients. Our anchor client for the last few years has been a very big asset management firm, namely Guggenheim. Along with, we are now working with a very large European bank, a big insurance company, and we have a pipeline of large companies that seem to have found out about us without us saying much publicly. So yeah, we're working with very large companies on pretty big data problems.
So tell me about what your hopes and dreams are for what Mezocliq could and should become.
I think that all companies have a huge problem with data fragmentation. And I think we're flirting with danger, if not catastrophe. Every large company now has hundreds, if not thousands of systems that don't talk to each other, where the data is inconsistent. And we're starting to see this spill out into major incidents. Our stock exchanges have been down for 4 half days. We've seen airline reservation systems all slow down. We have seen, for example, the federal visa system be out for, I think, about 2 weeks. And I think that this problem needs to be solved before we have a major meltdown somewhere. I think most CIOs and CEOs know that this problem needs to be solved. The problem they've had is there's no credible way to really solve it. The infrastructure that's been built over the last 2-3 decades needs to get modernized, but they don't quite know how to do it without putting their company at risk. We at Mezocliq have, I think, a very unique solution to this problem. We have a data platform that can be used to pull data out of all these fragmented legacy systems into a modern environment. And that can be used first for analysis, but then to slowly transform all of technology. We'd love over time to be the go-to data platform for large companies as they try to solve this problem.